Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Good morning, everyone, and we would like to send a warm welcome to class and our lecturer, Mr.THINH. Let me first introduce ourselves. We are Group 2 with 10 lovely members, which are Hoàng Nhi, Hạnh Duy, Thiên Trúc, Thảo Nguyên, Phước Hậu, Phương Uyên, Minh Quân, Kim Nguyên, and me, Thiện Phú. And on behalf of Group 2, there will be Hạnh Nhi, Hạnh Duy, Phương Uyên, and me will be the presenter of our group project today. In this 4.0 digital age, we the young are exposed to different social media platforms, and Instagram is no exception. As you all know, we are sophomores, a part of Z generation, and social media is what we care about every single day. As digital marketing is thriving and the power of social media is on the rise, I think the term Instagram influencers is no longer strange to any one of us here, and it has become influential on various aspects, including our thinking and our behaviors. They can be considered as role models thanks to the beautiful image, branding, or profile they have built on social network. So since they have a very huge impact, that means they play a very important role in shaping our lives. Have you ever thought about the point that whether the contents they uploaded have been strictly managed enough? Well, Group 2, we are here today to provide a deeper understanding of this controversial matter, whether they should be regulated for the contents and if this relates to the freedom of speech. Today's topic is of particular interest to those of you who are usually influenced by the contents that influencers posted and showing awareness about the freedom of those contents. I hope that our group can resolve your concerns on this subject and you may find the answer after our presentation. For you guys to understand more about this hot social issue, we'll divide our presentation into 4 main parts. First and foremost, the background of Instagram influencers. Second, the method from the critical thinking course which we apply into our project, and the data analysis section. Third, some weak arguments, or we may call them are myths and stereotypes about Instagram influencers. And last but not least, consolidating and strengthening our points of view and drawing a general conclusion. Just for a reminder, don't worry about taking notes. We'll send you the slides if you wish. And if you have any further questions or concerns, you can contact us later. I hope I've made myself clear. So now let's begin with part 1, which is some basic information about Instagram influencers. As you can see in the ongoing evolution of modern society, social networks, and here's particularly Instagram, have become a vital feature for the majority of the young people today. According to a statistical study on social media marketing, more than 1 billion individuals use Instagram each month. Furthermore, Instagram users spend an average of 30 minutes per day on the site in 2020, up from less than 4.3% in 2019. These statistics demonstrate that Instagram has surpassed Facebook as the second most popular social media network of active users. Since then, Instagram has been the breeding ground for Instagram influencers. So, who are influencers actually? Influencers are trendsetters and they impact the behaviors and lifestyles of a group of people or a particular community. They are famous for having a large number of followers on social platforms. Here on the screen, you can see some examples of Vietnamese famous Instagram influencers in various fields such as fashion, lifestyle, and even travel. I guess that our class here can realize who they are, right? So what do they actually do? They have the ability to influence the decisions of their followers due to the relationship with their audience, their knowledge and expertise in certain fields. With visually appealing content and carefully crafted captions, they can attract a massive global following. Brands are now enlisting the help of prominent influencers to sell their products. But on the other hand, Not all influencers positively contribute to the society. Instead of spreading a progressive vibe, they propagate deviations from societal standards. This is a really concerning condition, as this concern has recently erupted regularly and dominated social media platforms. And that is the reason why influencers must be rigorously monitored in the name of freedom of speech. Well, that is some brief information about today's topic.
Hello everyone, my name is Hanyi and I'm responsible to present the next part. So after having a look at the introduction, we will focus on the next part is the methodologies. So in this part, we divide the logical fallacies into two categories as fallacies of relevance and fallacies of insufficient evidence. The combination of two broad group fallacies is used to address the topic include bandwagon backing the questions and equivocations of fallacies of relevance, appeal to authority, and appeal to ignorance of fallacies of insufficient evidence. So firstly, the biogun argument is committed when the arguer appeals to a person's desire to be popular, accepted, or valued rather than to logically relevant reasons or evidence. Its patience is fallacious because the fact that a belief is true or that the practice is good. However, appeal to popular belief or practice are not fallacious, and if they include the sufficient logical evidence, this fallacy is intended to indicate the confused argument based on the wrong belief, which are taken for granted without rational reasons. And the second is backing the questions fallacies. It is committed when the arguer state or assume as a premise the very thing he or she is trying to prove as a conclusions. Therefore, this type of argument does not bring any value in proving the conclusions. And now let's move to the next fallacies, which is called equivocations. When a keyword is used in two or more senses in the same argument, it can be difficult to spot uh, because they often appear valid, but they are not. This fallacy is used to discard the argument around the phrase freedom of speech. And last but not least, we have the appeal to authority and the appeal to ignorance fallacies. And the appeal to authority fallacies is committed when the arguer cites witness or authority that is unworthy or often use premises with the source from who is not genuine authority on the subject as issue. This is confirmed that these fallacies occur with high frequency with others. On the other hand, the appeal to ignorance fallacies occur when the arguer asserts that a claim must be true because no one has proved its false or vice versa. Concisely, these fallacies come from the lack of evidence for or against a claim. And the second method is using refuting premises. Premise to refute or to defeat an argument. There are two ways to refute an argument and show that a premise or a critical group of premises is false or dubious, or show that the reasoning is bad. And next, we can improve the inductive argument. Inductive arguments are defined as arguments in which conclusions is claimed or intended to follow. Probably from the premises in this project, we apply improving inductive arguments method in consolidating argument from oppositions to strengthen our argument about the necessity of regulations for Instagram influencers. And moreover, we can use the Venn diagram as a method to consolidate opposing argument in other to enhance our case for the need for Instagram influencer restrictions. It is the easiest method to test the validity of symbol categorical by drawing a series of overlapping circle and associated markings. And now let's move to the data analysis of Phương.
After having a look at the methodologies, we will focus on data analysis. We conducted a poll among international university students to increase the reliability of this survey to 95%. We surveyed more than 8,100 students. At least 370 entries were received and provided feedback to have us support the following avenues. First, you can see that the given pie charts illustrate that Instagram is barely used for less than an hour a day by most of those who took the study, 52.4%. Over 18% of Instagram users spend more than 2 hours a day on the app. Other Instagram users spend less than an hour a day on the platform, approximately 28.8%. And we continue with the graph above. As an influencer, public image is influenced by the fan base site. According to the data, over 53% are in agreement with this sentiment. This demonstrates how much a user perception of an influencer on a social media site matters. A person's following will develop as their fan spread. However, over 33% of people are not sure about it. This finding suggests it may not be the case for all influencers. And when people who did the survey were asked the question about the influence level of those thought leaders, 67.9% of people agree that famous people on social platforms can affect the way other things or do in their daily activities. 9.6% and 22.5% are the percentage of the group of people do not know or not sure whether influencers can impact their community. And with the graph above, ask whether Instagram users can see the posts of influencers even they do not follow them. Almost 43% of Instagram users claim that it's hardly ever for them to see anything related to people they do not have interest in. 38% of them see those posts regularly. The more time you spend on social media, the more information platform can collect from users. If the amount of data is large enough, it can suggest a post that may be interesting. And the fifth question in the front intended to illustrate how the influencers affect the shopping behavior of the users. The overwhelming answer for this question is that IU students rarely purchase items recommended by the influencers. Over one-fourth of them frequently be affected by the style of the influencers and choose to have the same item with them. And the last question of the form directly asks about the IU student opinion about the freedom of speech of the Instagram influencers. Over two-thirds of students agree with the opinion that Instagram influencers need regulating by the authorities, despite not being in the majority. The number of students disagree or in the gray area are more than 100. With this statistic, the topic is still controversial in the international university campus. And that brings us to the final point of this part conclusion. To begin with, the average time spent on Instagram by study participants is as low as the reverse statistics, and most of them seldom see sponsored posts from influencers they do not follow. Second, because followers by THINH advertised by influencers on a very infrequently level, the survey participants are unlikely to be influenced by Instagram influencers in terms of buying habits. Finally, because of the significant awareness of the trendsetter effect on societal concern, The majority of survey respondents felt that the freedom of expression of those influencers should be limited by the authorities. Now we will turn to identify weak arguments around this problem. We come to the first weak argument. First, some people believe that influencers pick up everything right and correctly just because they are influencers. This argument can be divided into three types of fallacies: belting, appeal to authority, and begging the questions. In fact, influencers cannot reasonably be expert in all aspects of society. When influencers gain popularity, corporations will negotiate contracts with them and involve them in a marketing campaign supported by authenticity of the product. Take the case of Samsung MTV as an example. As a singer and Instagram influencer with 6.4 million followers, he has agreed to be the brand ambassador and continuously posts promotional photos for BTS' new soul launch campaign, even though the product is unrelated in his profession. The results of the campaign are very significant. When the sale of BT Hunter has increased 3 times in just 1 week. In this scenario, many followers will not be able to explain the validity or falsity of the message transmitted by the influencers with genuine evidence. It is believed that these influencers are well known for their significant expertise, so what they publish is accurate and meaningful. So how can we improve it? I would agree that if we want to solve this problem, we must start from both sides. Influencers can post their experience and knowledge in the fields when they have learned from reputable sources. In addition, people also need to listen from many answers to verify the authenticity of the information and reconsider the decision to follow just the influencers. Now, Han Yui will come with the second and third quick argument.
Here is the next quick argument we need to discuss. It is clear that it is not just celebrities who always verbalize properly. However, there are still many controversial arguments that influencers are also citizens and they have the right to free speech. To clear this up, we start with finding this quick argument. It is indisputable that this is a controversy of equivocation fallacy. Like many ordinary citizens, influencers have all the basic rights to freedom of expressions. Nevertheless, some influencers believe that exercising this right means speaking, commenting, sharing, and disseminating information without bearing any responsibility or obstruction. Even for statements that distort the truth, misinformation, biased comments, arbitrary one-sidedness. Linke, a typical example, a 10x hard girl, made a shocking statement about her grade when her high school transcripts were revealed. She said that the grade doesn't matter. Now college grade can be bought. With her statement, Linke received a lot of criticism about herself when she made false statements negatively affecting the thought of students. Before the public attack, Linke apologized for her shallow statements. Influencers must understand that freedom of speech is not the same as freedom of expression. If they want to share or say anything openly, they must check if their comments have any impact on society. Benefits must go hand in hand with responsibility. Influential people must be aware of their obligations and taking responsibilities for their action, what they can and cannot do. Therefore, the right to freedom of expression must be included in such a framework. To address this situation, celebrities need to check content before posting because false ID can directly change the behavior and attitude of followers. In case of violation, the government should impose penalties of law on cybersecurity for individuals who commit acts of giving false information and infringe upon the lawful rights and interests of other agency organizations. The last week argument discussed in this report is no one denied the effectiveness of Instagram policy. Therefore, Instagram can fully detect the offensive contents of influencers. We can easily recognize the mistake in reasoning for these arguments. No one denied the efficiency of Instagram policy does not mean they are working perfectly. This argument runs into the fallacy that ignores the negative side of the policy of Instagram. Discussing in detail, Instagram has indeed proposed detailed regulation about community guidelines and they are trying their best to reduce the spread of false or unauthorized sources of information. On its official Health Center website, the way Instagram uses to address false information has stated clearly that Instagram makes false information harder to be found by filtering it from explore and hashtag pages in feed and story whenever it is detected by the third-party fact checker. From this point, they use image matching technology to find further instances of the content and automatically label identical content if it is posted elsewhere on Instagram or Facebook. Posts that have been identified as false information are labeled so people can better decide for themselves what to read, trust, and share. When a false information label is applied, it appears to everyone viewing that content and can be seen in feed, profile, stories, and direct. The label will link out to the rating from the fact checker and provide link to articles from credible sources that debunk the claims made in the post. The most restrict policy is that when they find that a post or an account goes against with the community guidelines, they will remove it. The standard applies to all types of contents. Besides this policy, we can easily find out there are some disadvantages in other methods that Instagram used to detect false information. Firstly, is the identification of false information on Instagram depend on the third-party fact checker, what can be used or a specific part rented by Instagram. But how can we make sure that the fact checker are able to realize incorrect news 100%? Particularly, we take an example that user find out a sensitive content. Instagram review reports, but it isn't always clear how quickly they act. After all, there are definitely many reports made on accounts that are not violating Instagram rules, which make the policy make more confused and the user be uncomfortable using the social network. In the second term, Instagram uses image matching and scanning text technology to find further content instances. Artificial intelligence technology can be either helpful or harmful, and there are many other ways of getting around the rules. This picture indicates the way users used to get around the rules. We intend not to show the real instance because the meaning hidden behind the symbol are not good. Then there is also the probability of not identifying the toxic content. Finally, false information is not prohibited immediately but be limited or labeled. Users can choose whether they can see or not. Thus, Instagram policy cannot detect offensive content completely. The questions we need to answer is how can we improve it? Because Instagram can only regulate certain cases, we still need more strict surveillance to from trustworthy authorities. In terms of culture, languages, slang in some languages can be detected as offensive content. User habit. Authorities might be those who have enough power and credibility to control the contents on Instagram, especially information from influencer. I would take on turn to order of my teammates.
And then is consolidating and strengthening. Instagram influencer content can be regulated to ensure that it does not violate their freedom of speech. After having a look at those quick arguments, we would investigate whether Instagram influencers should be regulated using an anti-bias lens. Five fallacies are analyzed and modified to cement the idea of supporting the control of Instagram influencers contents and prove that it does not constitute their freedom of speech. First of all, we can strengthen the first argument. It is believed that the influencers speak up everything right and correctly just because they are influencers. By rephrasing it into Instagram influencers are followed by many people, and most Instagram users follow those whose information is true. Therefore, Instagram influencers probably speak up the true informations, and Instagram influencer posts may be true, but they are probability that their information is that authenticity. According to the method for improving inductive argument. In this case, the conclusion is unlikely to be wrong with the true premises, but the argument clearly shows that it just may be true. And the second argument, influencers have the freedom of speech like a normal citizen, so they are allowed to speak freely, and it can be changed into influencers can directly affect their followers' mind and behavior, and they are not similar with normal people. Hence, they definitely have the right freedom of speech, but not speaking freely. They to have a stronger argument in comparison with before. Instagram influencers have the same rights as all citizens, including the freedom of speech, but they need to control and select the verified information. And if any erroneous content was updated, it can easily lead to the controversial in social media. From then on, their mission is to bring a healthy and trustworthy environment for not only their followers, but also the Instagram user. And now, thankful we present the third consolidating argument.
Hi, it's me Fu again, and now I will continue on Han Yi's part regarding the third weak argument. It's undoubted that Instagram policies cannot cover all the sensitive contents or identify false information which is uploaded on the feeds by Instagram influencers. Therefore, we cannot just rely on the function of those policies. So obviously that we will need further strict cooperation from the authorities with administrative powers in order to manage the complexity of Instagram. In order to prove the validity of the aforementioned argument, it can be rewritten in the categorical syllogism form with the following premises and the conclusion. The first premise, all Instagram's content policies are accepted or approved policies. Second premise, some Instagram's content policies are effective rules. And the conclusion will be all accepted or approved policies are effective rules. We'll illustrate this by using the Venn diagram. And as you can see, this is an invalid categorical syllogism, which means that the previous argument, no one denies the effectiveness of Instagram's policies. Therefore, Instagram can fully detect the offensive contents of influencers is not valid. Thus, we can strengthen the argument by rephrasing it into the standardized form with the same premises, along with a little bit change in the conclusion. Premises will be all Instagram's content policies are accepted, approved policies. Some Instagram's content policies are effective rules, and the conclusion will change from all to some. Some accepted or approved policies are effective rules. And to make sure that this later argument is good or valid, we will build another Venn diagram. This later argument, as can be seen, is valid. This implies that Instagram's policies are likely to cache deceptive content, but there are still times or occasions when such policies fail or malfunction. As a result, authorities should be heavily involved in the goal of selecting such data, sorting out the information for a civilized social media platform. Well, this brings me to the end of our presentation, but before ending, I'll just run through the three main points again. The aim of our project today is to discuss the freedom of expression of Instagram influencers and whether they should be regulated or can be left as it is. So first, it is found that influencers should be controlled for various reasons, including that they cannot be experts in all fields or aspects of social life, and there is still the probability of spreading fake news. Second, many companies have relied on the vast followings of influencers and forced them to spread fake news or bias the quality of their products. And finally, Instagram may be able to identify misinformation, but not fully detect offensive content. Therefore, we still need closer supervision from trusted authorities and especially information from influential people. To sum up, based on the mentioned reasons, we have found out that IG influencers should be regulated for the contents they create for the society. Here are some of the references that help us build up the content and images of the presentation. And well, thank you all for listening, and if you still have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact us via the Facebook group of our class, and we'll be glad to receive any feedback or concern from you. Thank you.
Nào kìa bầy chim ơi, hãy nở nụ cười, nụ hoa ơi, thật đáng cuộc đời. Thế lại đến hẹn năng lại lên trên đường ta giao bước, bên cạnh nhau tìm chân trời mới mà ta đã luôn ao ước. Khó khăn mấy cũng không cần lui ta cùng
users. Since then, Instagram has been the breeding ground for Instagram influencers.
University students to increase the relatability. Sorry. Hello.
But they are
Information by as common and arbitrary one-sidedness.
95%. We surveyed more than 8,100 students. Hôm nay lại leo lưới rồi. 1, 2, 3.
có khó khăn gì thì tôi đang có bạn bè.
Sơ hiểm nguy nào thì tôi